You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lined up for y'all. And I always say we have exclusives because that's why they're on the show. We always have the best of the best. We have a music artist and also fashion designer. Her name is Emily Daccarett, and I said that last name about 5 times before the show because I want to make sure I get it right. But we have her on the show today. We're going to learn all about her music. She has an album coming out, Yours Truly. And she also has a single that came out not too long ago called Fading Memories. We're going to learn all about that. But first, we're going to learn a little bit about Emily. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm really excited to be on here.
So you're from LA or did you get to LA?
I got to LA. I was actually born in Kansas, but grew up in LA, like the Central Valley. And then I moved to France to study fashion design, and I lived there for 4 years. And then I moved to LA and made LA my home.
So let me get this straight. You said you moved to France?
Mm-hmm.
All right. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's crazy. Because it's only crazy because I think it's crazy. Most people are like, oh, what's the big deal? Well, I'm going to say what's a big deal. What's the story of you going to France? Because I think that's very interesting. What intrigued you to make that trip? Did you know people there, or was it something that just inspired you to go there?
I didn't know anybody there. I actually moved to LA briefly to study fashion design, and I just didn't feel that connection with the city at that time, and wanted to I was so thirsty to be in a new culture, be surrounded by new people. And I kind of felt like moving from my hometown in Central California to LA just felt like a bigger high school. And I felt really disappointed by that experience. So, shortly after moving here, I started looking at schools in France, and I had always wanted to go to Paris. It wasn't, I just kind of assumed maybe later on I could take another course there after I study here. But it just became very apparent that at least I felt that I was being called to go there. And I felt deep down that I would find myself as an artist there. And at the time, it was really I was only focusing on fashion design, thinking okay, I need to put my other passions aside, which have always been dance and singing, and focus solely on fashion. So I had seen this movie, Sabrina, not Audrey Hepburn, but the one with Harrison Ford. And so in that, and I always forget her name, the actress and the main actress name, but the actress who plays Sabrina goes to Paris and does an internship there for a year, and was given this line that you'll find yourself in Paris just walking the streets. And I guess that just really struck something in me. So when I was very little, so I always had that thought of okay, if I get myself to Paris, I'll find what motivates me. Why do I love fashion? What inspires me and excites me about it? And I wasn't wrong. So so that was good.
Wow. That's not even the highlight of the show yet, but that's one of the highlights I'm checking off on the show, because that's not just interesting. You basically saw a movie when you were younger, and you kept that in your head that you want to go there. You just want to go there. That's crazy. Oh man, I'm gonna use that in my cheat sheets. Because we all hear people talking about vision boards, how important that is and all that. Did you have something like that, or would you just keep that in your head, or did you actually write it down?
I kept that in my head, like in that corner of goals. And I I don't like to like tell everybody like, oh, this is my plan, just because like you never know if one, it's going to happen, and two, I'd rather let my work or my actions speak for themselves. So I did keep that, in the back of my head all this time. And I had certain goals, like certain things I wanted to hit at a certain age. And as soon as I got to Paris, I realized like, well, that's not going to happen because.
See, that's another interesting part. Once again, we're talking to Emily Daccarett. Go to emilydaccarett.com. But once you get to, and I know you probably didn't expect me to dwell on this for a long time, but it's very interesting. When you got there, I mean, you say you didn't know anybody. So what was your steps? Like, did you have to find work? I mean, what was it? How the heck did you even like survive? I mean, I'm not saying you broke, but I'm just saying, I know if I was trying to go to Paris, it better be for like a couple hours and flying back, because what was the game plan?
Yeah. I just, all I had ready and set was the school I had gone into, and I really thought that they had student housing, or at least they helped international students with student housing. They don't, they didn't. So I had like all I had was like 2 weeks in a hotel, like reservation, and the school. And the hotel ended up being like 45 minutes away from the school, even though online it said, oh, it's 10 minutes. So it was a lot of, it was very overwhelming. And the first day I got there, just because I didn't know anybody, and my French was like extremely basic, where I could just, ask like, where's the taxis, or the bathroom, and I'm lost. Those were the only things that I could remember from class before. So it was so strange. I really thought, I don't know, I was under the impression like, oh, I'm sure there'll be a lot more English speaking people, especially, at the airports, at the hotels, driving like, like just stores, like you really think, and then you get there and you notice like, oh, okay, no, they don't really speak English here. And
Wow.
So a lot of sign language, and I did speak Spanish as well, so like I could catch some things, but it was mainly just sign language and showing like certain things on my phone that I needed to get to. And I ended up like going to the school library over and over and just saying like, please, I need help, because as an international student, it was really hard to get, just to be able to get a lease, because you needed to do these things, or it's a lot of red tape. And to do the first step, you have to have the following two already done. So it was a lot of like going around and around, going to the bank, to the phone, to just all these things. And so what ended up happening was that I ended up meeting a girl that was looking for a roommate, and she was French and also could not speak English. But I was so desperate. And so I said like, yes, let's move in together if you have the room, if you have the apartment. And that's what we did. And then she and I kind of taught her English. She helped me learn French. And every day we'd like write down phrases on our notebooks. And it was just a lot of like being thrown without really a safety net. And every day was an adventure until it finally it felt like home. And I want to say like after the first 6 months was, like the big hurdle. But after those 6 months, I started to kind of get my routine, and it started to feel like home. And by the first year, I was convinced I was never going to leave Paris.
And you said you will help her learn English and she will help you learn French. Yeah. What was the culture like? Because I take it you probably met more people outside your roommate, right?
Oh, yeah.
What was the culture like, and how did you adapt to just meeting people in a place you're not even familiar with?
Yeah.
Because I know in my outside looking in, I'm like, man, that's gonna be awkward.
It was. I mean, I guess it's also like. I mean, I grew up in California, and so we kind of. I didn't know. So for me, it was normal, and going out of the country, and I mean, I had been out of the country, but I hadn't been to Europe before. So I didn't know that, we are very like, hey, let's hug. Oh my God, you're my best friend after I just met you. Those types of things. And so it was a little bit.
So they're very happy people compared to America. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah. I'm just talking about Paris. Like, I'm not talking outside of Paris. Like, you go to the south of France and people are hugging you like crazy. I'm just talking about Paris at the moment. They're not hugging you. It's a little bit of like, oh, I don't have time. If you don't know how to say something, please ask somebody else. Why are you smiling so much? Why do you say please and thank you as much as you do? Those types of things. So and the thing is, I didn't fight it, nor did I take it personally. It was more of a like, well, this is a different culture and I'm coming here to learn. So and just kind of like going off by some other international students that I did also have that problem. A lot of people would sometimes kind of want to impose their culture there, which not that I'm saying that's bad or anything, but it sometimes made it like a little bit difficult to really break down those barriers. Whereas with me, I was a bit more like, okay, in a way, like teach me your ways. And I would kind of blend their personalities with mine. And not that I ever completely lost my personality.
Yeah, you weren't clueless. You can tell someone was like trying to set you up or something, right?
Yes, exactly. But there were also things like, even just, for safety, like I was very used to opening the doors, especially for like older people. I would open, smile and open the doors. And sometimes it got me in trouble because people were thinking like, oh, you want something. And it was like, oh no, sir, I was trying to help you and you're on a walker. No. Yeah, so those are the types of things that then you start to pick up and are just like, okay, maybe don't smile so much on the street.
That's funny. Man, that's crazy. I had to have you tell that story because I feel like stories makes everything. That's our life. Without stories, we don't have a life. It's like, what are you doing? You're probably doing nothing. So with all that into play, I take it fashion really bloomed for you while you was in Paris. When was the time? I mean, pretty sure you finished school there, right? So after you finished school, did you come back to the United States immediately, or was it a transition of you staying there for a little bit? What was that like?
It was a little bit of a transition. I ended up staying 1 year after I graduated and was working. I was doing a lot of internships, and then one turned into a job. The thing, and I love that I got to do that, especially because like, it's crazy, but like you go to school, especially when it comes to these like very practical and hands-on, because I definitely would want my doctor to go to university. But like when it comes to like the creative fields in many aspects, and I think in like, other jobs as well, your first 2 weeks in an actual job, you learn more than you did like those past 4 years in school. So I was so grateful that I got to do that. But it also showed me that I wanted to do my own brand, and I didn't want to wait that long to make that jump. And that's what like pushed me to move to LA, just because I felt like, okay, well, LA, you know, is known for its streetwear, and there are many cool things that are coming out of LA, but it's not, you know, a fashion city. It's not London, Paris, Tokyo, Milan. It's LA. And in a way, it felt very freeing. Like I felt more like, okay, it's exciting because there's like no system, I guess, in a way. And I was still trying to figure out myself as an artist as well, because I did get to see, like, as much as I love fashion, and I really do, I didn't want to be put in a box of where, okay, you can only work on this, because the way that I work is I split my brain into like different facets, and I look at the visuals, and I also look at like film as a media a lot that I want to be a part of, music and fashion. And I've always felt like the two, fashion and music, just tie everything together for me. So staying and working for a brand, I couldn't anymore. And I just thought, like, if I'm going to, you know, break my nails every day and like, I, you know, end up having like holes on the bottom of your shoes because of all the walking and stuff, I'd rather do that for my own brand than for someone else. Just at least that's how I kind of thought of it. There was one day where sometimes, like, as interns, you're asked to do like these impossible tasks, and I was expected to carry 10 boxes that were, I want to say, 15 pounds each, and I'm only 5'3", so wow. I don't know how they wanted me to do that, but they expected me to do that, and it was, you know, I was crying, like I ended up crying because I had hurt myself. So I was like, you know what, if I'm going to be doing this and killing myself, I want to do it for myself and not for somebody else who is taking for granted. And also because I don't want to work, and I don't want to do that to others either. So I also kind of kept that with me. Like, if I have my brand and if I have people working for me, I'm never going to make them feel or put them in the same positions that I was put into.
I mean, that's perfect what you're talking about, because I'm hearing a lot of leadership. I'm hearing a lot of being independent, going for it, not just talking about it, because we know there are some people out there who just talk the talk, but they forget to walk. And most of the time they're sitting down half of the time, taking up space. When you have that mindset of, this is what I'm going to do because I'm transitioning to your music that you have, Fading Memories, a single, and your album you're working on, yours truly, you mentioned how music and fashion go together. And I'm not expert at all, disclaimer, all right? But I never really known fashion to never have music involved, especially for fashion shows. I could be wrong. Maybe there's crickets to some fashion shows where they just walk in, that's it. But last time I'm being aware of is, on the outsider, because I'm not an expert, is music is always with fashion shows and runways and, you know, everything. Music, it makes the mood for whatever you're doing. So get into, because time flies by when you're having fun, get into your music, switching gears slightly. How did you get in that space where you said, I'm going to start making music? Because you have a single and you have an album that's coming out soon.
So I was also kind of thrown into that when I was getting ready for my first fashion show in LA. I had worked with an indie film production, and because I really wanted to produce a short fashion film to kind of show the story of the collection and what inspired me and what exactly like the mood was. So, and I had been such a fan of like old perfume campaigns. I used to watch those all the time from like Yves Saint Laurent from the 70s and 80s. And I really wanted to bring that into fashion, especially because when it comes to like fashion films, they tend to be a bit more avant-garde. So it was getting a little bit boring for me. I wanted to take it back to storytelling, because that's how I design and write music. So I had picked a song, which that song was the one that had inspired the whole collection, which is Je t'aime moi non plus, a song from the late 60s by Jane Birkin and Serge Gainsbourg. And we were working to get the license, but it had to be approved by 4 different parties, and it was just taking way too long. So our plan B was to go with an original song and look for a film composer. So I met my, who now is one of my best friends, this film composer, like just starting out in LA. His name is Peace Nestades, and we bonded over French pop, and he knew exactly the song that I was talking about and the whole vibe. So he just started playing, and then I think we had like 5 days before the fashion show. So they said, okay, well, since you can, write in French, you're going to write the lyrics. And without even asking if like, oh, are you a lyricist? And of course I panicked for a minute, but I had always I would always write poetry before. So I just kind of did what my mom was always begging me to do. She was always asking me, please write songs. And I would always tell her like, no, I just write poetry. I can't write lyrics. So I got, okay, gonna listen to my mom and use my poetry for this. So I started writing a poem and then kind of formatted those two for the lyrics. And I had to do the vocals too, since we didn't have time to look for another female singer. And I had already done the vocals for for the runway show, because for the remix, we needed like a faster tempo. So I had done that, and they had heard me sing there. So they were like, okay, yeah, you can sing, you do the vocals too. So we did that, and I fell in love with writing music, and I never thought I would ever write my own like lyrics and work with a composer, but I did it, and it was amazing. So after that, I adapted that into my brand, where every collection I would go and work with him. And we did that for 6 collections. And after the 6th, I just thought like, well, what more? Because I love working on music, but I feel like my lack of music training is hindering like my creativity, and I wanted to be able to have more input in the songs that we were writing, and I wanted to kind of like exert the same confidence I do in fashion with the musicians too, out of respect for them and respect for myself. So I took some time off and went to the Musicians Institute in Los Angeles to learn how to produce.
I got to interrupt you real quick because number 1, wow. And number 2, reason why I say wow is because your work ethic is crazy good. You sound like someone who you basically was like, all right, here are these problems, and here are some options I have to fix these problems. You literally took break to go to school again. That's dedication. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, thank you. It was scary at the same time because I was putting a pause on my brand, but I knew that I had come to the point where, okay, I need more training again, because I feel as artists, like your job is never done. You are constantly having to evolve and adapt. So going to school again was that refresher that I needed to focus on something completely different. And it really, in many ways, it broke me because I felt like, again, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. And
well, you can survive Paris, man. Come on, you can survive LA.
Yeah, that's true. True. So this wasn't as bad. I mean, this was like, it was so fun, and And I love that I got to experience like going to school with musicians, because going to school for fashion was so much fun. And I did make a lot of amazing friends, but there was always that competition and that like you could just kind of feel when people were like hoping you didn't succeed. And I always hated that. I really hated that. Which was another thing that people would tell me, like, oh, you're too nice to be in fashion, which I always thought that was ridiculous. Like, no, you need to be nice. Like, if you want to work, you need to be nice. But anyway, in music school, everyone was like a family, supportive, amazing. Like, they're some of my best friends now.
They probably want your vocals on their track.
So they just want me, yeah.
That's why they were nice. It's like, all right, we need that vocal, man. We need that vocal session.
Yeah, I guess in a way, yeah, they are smarter because it's like, let's all be friends so we can collaborate.
Nowadays on the hustle too. I mean, when you finish doing that, you obviously made them both work together, but did you immediately start working on new projects with fashion and music coming together, or was that something that you was doing while you still going to that school?
It was something I was doing while I was still going to school. I thought I was very naive thinking, oh, I think I can do another collection even though I'm in school. That I couldn't do. But I started to then bring in other elements of my brand when it came to more like the visuals and accessories. So I kind of focused a little bit more on accessories, but mainly kind of figuring out the way to bring those two together. And a big hurdle I had to overcome too was that I had, when I was younger, loved performing and loved the stage and loved the spotlight. Like there's no other feeling like being on stage. But when I went into design and started working a lot on like fashion shows, photo shoots, and just being behind the scenes, and you start to get, the producer hat, all of a sudden to then be, okay, I'm going to be an artist again. I just had so many insecurities and needed to really get out of that, like everything must be perfect type of headspace and just break through all those barriers. And also, worried about, well, I don't want people to think this is a vanity project and I don't want my brand to suffer either. But that, like, because my brand name for fashion is, my birth name. And I use that thinking like, okay, like my brand will evolve with me and I don't want it to be a specific style. But then when I wanted to also pursue music now as a musical artist as well, my name was no longer available. And so I had to really think how I know I've always said I wanted to merge these two worlds together, but just how much. And it took me some time to like really come to peace and feel good about, okay, no, I'm also going to use my name for my music. And I'm not going to hide it anymore, because I didn't hide it completely, that I was the one writing the music for my fashion shows, but I never promoted it. And now it was, that was me. And so there were many people that had, would pull from my collections, like stylists and photographers. And they were like, we had no idea you could sing. Like, we were wondering where you had gone. So it was like all these things that I think that was the hardest thing, just kind of getting out of my head and being confident again.
Well, somebody listening right now who's in the fashion world is probably going to be hitting you up after they hear this interview. You, once again, we touched on you doing music now. So we know about you, Kansas to LA to Paris. What's crazy is Kansas. Man. So shout out to everyone in Kansas, because if she can do it and go to Paris and then come back and do what she's doing right now, and she's on radio doing all these interviews, like she's doing it. That's just the example of hard work. hard work opens doors. That's something I learned from the greatest of the greatest, because that's what people do. To become great, you work, and to give back, that means you have some kind of expertise. So for those listening right now, how can they listen to Fading Memories? And your album, when it comes out, is titled Yours Always. Yours Always is the title of your album coming out. How can people listen to that? Because if we talk a whole lot about the album, that's going to be a whole nother hour. But before we let you go, I'm going to let you wrap this all up. Tell people about your music that you have out now and your album that's coming up soon.
So Fading Memories, you can stream it on any major streaming platform: Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer. It's also on YouTube for the people that I guess Spotify might be restricted for some reason. Also Google Play. So yeah, any major streaming platform. And this album, Yours Always, is a concept album that deals with love, time, childhood memories, innocence, and hope, loss and rejection as well. I should have mentioned those in the beginning. And the way that we wanted to, because I worked on this with the film composer who I've always been working with, we really wanted to bring in like that epic movie soundtrack, and took inspiration from the genre Nouvelle Chanson, which is very like using, because Fading Memories, there's like spoken word throughout, as well as melodies and singing. But I wanted to really bring in more emphasis on the lyrics, because each song does tell a story, and all these songs are connected. And there's a lot of like time traveling from the past to the present, and remembering just like the fantasies that we used to have as kids. And as you grow up, you tend to feel like those are impossible to reach again.
And what's so cool about this whole show is, number one, I feel like, I don't know anything about fashion, but I feel like whoever's listening to the fashion industry, they need to call you ASAP before you blow up. Because your story is really, I'm not being cliche here, it's dope. From Kansas to LA to Paris, because you lost me when, not in a bad way, but in the earlier the interview, you lost me when you said you went to Paris. And not because you was going to be a student, but just because I'm like, wow, to have that mindset, I'm just go. Because when you start out saying Kansas to LA, I'm like, okay, all right, she's doing, yeah, all right. But when you say you jumped to Paris, and then you stayed there a year, and then you come back to the United States, and then you still wasn't satisfied, you went back to school for music, and now you got an album about to drop, and you got new clothes. Well, excuse me, my vocabulary in your industry might be incorrect, you can correct me, but your fashion expertise, you're doing those things as well. You're still creating, you're still working. I'm not going to ask you if you get tired, because you're awake right now, but what keeps you driven to be so determined to work hard? Because you love what you do, and it shows.
Yeah, I ask myself that sometimes too. I know it'll sound cliche, but I do owe a lot of this to my parents. They were always my initial inspiration as two entrepreneurs, and I saw them, take risks, and it worked often. And there were times when it like crashed, but they would always like rebuild. And that's something I've always admired about them, that they don't think small. They're not afraid to challenge themselves, and they're also not afraid to fail. So even when they do fail, they pick themselves up and are like, okay, well, how do we get back up? And that was something that I I saw and really absorbed, and that's how I just kind of live my life in that way, where it's like I'll plan something, and honestly, more doors close than they open, but I just kind of take it as, okay, like let me reroute and let's see how to do this, and sometimes like those doors closing really do open better things. So try to stay positive as well. And I'm just like, I love life. And I think that the more I get in touch with like my craft and the projects I do, the more I realize that more than anything, I just want to get people excited as I do when I see certain movies or hear certain songs. And especially like for me, I'm always looking at like retro fashion movies and music. Love the 70s. And I just kind of want to like make sure that people, especially kids, have that, like have those like weird cartoons that I saw when I was little and was like blown away, and felt like following that versus like what everybody else was watching. So yeah, I think just want to make people excited and passionate.
I can tell you're going to do big things because I don't know jack about fashion, but I feel listening to you that I can have a dope line. I'm just saying. But that's what happens. I mean, it's like basketball, some Michael Jordan status. I mean, he's such a great player. Everybody wants to dribble basketball back in the day. I mean, when the Bulls were hot, and, everybody trying to be like Mike, and you can't dunk worth nothing. You can't even jump high. But that's what happens when people motivate you with their stories and with their passion. And you just, I got to be careful because I can talk for another hour and people ain't going to like me no more on my podcast. But you have this, you always hear energy, vibes, or whatever. But I say you just have this clarity. When people have clarity on what they want to do in life, most people want to jump on the bandwagon with those people because those people are going somewhere. Those people are not like the norm, or not the norm. I got to be careful what I say. Disclaimer. Like the average way of thinking. The average way of thinking is, here's the routine of life. I get up, I do what I do, I go to sleep, and I repeat that. That's what I call average. Those like you and the people I have on the show, you don't just get up and do something. You do something with a purpose, with a plan, not to say you're perfect, you hit every single thing on your list, but you at least say, oh, Paris would be interesting. Can you imagine if you didn't follow through with going to Paris? What would you think would have held you back if you decided not to go to Paris?
Because I tried to remember what it was like before, because I don't think I would have done as much. I think eventually I would have settled for something comfortable.
Bingo. That's what I was trying to get you to say, because that, I don't mean to cut you off, I'm just saying, that's exactly what I was thinking you were going to say, because what happens is people, when they don't take time to find a passion, they settle. And those who settle can also settle because they think where they are currently is not good enough. There's one thing you said, I know I got to wrap this up because it's an airplane that needs to land, but you mentioned about having more doors closed than doors open. Sometimes, I always say on the show, we see people's highlights. We don't see their behind the scenes failures and problems and, AKA life. I'm not going to ask you how you stayed motivated when you had those closed doors. what was it that kept you deciding to take the next step, even though you had a closed door in your face?
One thing that really helped was that, and even now, I'm always looking at people's stories and seeing their struggles. And so a long time ago, I wanted to stay like as a kid. And I've always had that mentality, which I know sometimes I was criticized for. But I just don't see a difference between like somebody like me or who who you're just starting and somebody who's at the top. The only difference is like, what did you do to get there? And luck does, play big sometimes, but luck isn't everything. And it's a lot of persistence. And what exactly do you want to do?
It'll get you there, but it won't keep you there.
Yes. And I also knew that at least the way that what excites me about fashion is not like what is necessarily trending at the moment, but what sparks that trend. So, always staying ahead.
Oh, I know you're a rapper too, man. Dang. Can you say that real quick one more time?
What I love is not what's trendy at the moment, but what sparks the trend ahead.
You just sparked so much light right now for those listening on the show. You just sparked a trend right now. You. Don't forget the name, Emily Daccarett. I almost messed up your last name, but Emily Daccarett. Don't forget that name. Say that one more time, because I'm telling you, that's very important. Say that one more time. I'm serious. You need to write a book on that. For real. Say that one more time.
I'll write that down. I don't follow what's trendy. I like, oh my gosh, now I forgot exactly how I said it. But what excites me about fashion is not what's trendy at the moment, but what sparks the trend.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's it. And if y'all don't get anything else, I'm gonna say the spark for you, it happened when you decided what it is you want to do with life. I don't know when period of time, because only you know that, but it definitely started when you decided this is what I'm gonna do. Because that's what the show is about. We try to help people find their passion, and it's through stories. And I'm not going to bore you because I'm telling you this airplane is going to land. It's almost the wheels about to touch the runway. But before we let you go, what would you like to tell your future clients and your future business partners and those who are waiting for me to ask you for your information so they can email you for a big project? What would you like to say to the future Emily?
I like to say to never lose the love of what I'm doing and what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, like I have like in my head, I'm just like, I have no control of what's going on in the world. But what I can do is make sure that what I create is something positive. And so the people that I gravitate to and want to work with are people who have that similar mindset of wanting to do something, making the world a better place through art. Because my goodness, that's what art is. It's making those uncomfortable moments, those horrible moments into something beautiful that you can release and let it go.
Well, I want your autograph when you blow up because, yeah, that's what you are saying and what I see on your website and what you're doing, the music. I mean, you about to drop music, you got music out, you got fashion, you got this, you got that, you can speak French. I mean, that's dope, man, because so many people can spend their whole life and never do anything that they're proud of. What do you want your legacy to be at the end of the day?
I want my legacy to have, which it's so crazy, but like I when I was little, I wanted to like change the world, right? I thought I really could. And I just want my work to make people dream, to let them escape a little bit, and to like really help them understand that you are capable of doing anything and everything you set your mind to. Like, no matter how many no's and no matter how hard it is, like, we are all equal and all deserve that chance to chase after our dreams, no matter what.
I'm going to keep my reply short now because I know people are waiting for this airplane to land. But I know you who is listening to this know somebody who's in the creative space. And if you know someone who's a fashion type of person, you want to share this podcast with them, because I think Emily Daccarett really hit everything on the head today. And before we let you go, because like I said, I'm not even going to keep talking, how can people keep in contact with you? And for those who want to get in touch with you for big projects and get your expertise, how can they connect with you?
So you can find me on all social media, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, under Emily Daccarett. And I am the only one with that name everywhere. It's not a common name. So you can find me very easily that way. And I do try to stay really active on Instagram, especially Instagram and Facebook. So you can message me there. Or you could go to my website, emilydaccarett.com for fashion, and emilydaccarettmusic.com for more the music side. But yeah, you can always reach me on my socials.
Well, once again, it's great having Emily Daccarett on the show. And definitely go on emilydaccarett.com and check out her music and social medias and get connected with her. And like we say on every single show, keep God first, stay focused, and peace.